Hi, Chris here with E3. I'm here today to introduce E3's newest course, Keeping It Legit, Legal Considerations in Website Ownership. In this course, we'll discuss some common legal issues that you may encounter as a website owner. The course will be broken down into two different areas, website integrity and dealing with third parties. In the website integrity portion of the course, we'll introduce you to some of the most common legal issues that a website owner may be faced with in respect to the content of a website. These issues will include how to deal with copyright infringement, avoiding defamation suits, an explanation of privacy rights, the legalities of file sharing, and more. The Dealing with Third Parties portion of the course will cover issues related to expected interactions with third parties that you may encounter over the lifetime of your website. These issues will include how to deal with information requests from government and private entities, censorship of your site, how to deal with cyberbullying, and understanding terms of service and other legal agreements, to name a few. These classes are designed to give you a general understanding of the topics we wish to address so that you can be aware of the possible pitfalls in owning your own website. If you find yourself dealing with one of the issues that we address or have been sued in court or charged criminally, you should seek legal counsel as soon as possible. Each topic we cover can have unique factors that are not discussed in these classes that a trained professional can recognize so that you can resolve your particular situation. With that said, let's jump into our first class, where we'll cover some basics on domain names. If you watched our Web Design with WordPress course, we showed you how to go about registering a domain name, but today I'd like to give you a little bit of background about domain names themselves. First and foremost, a domain name represents an address for a specific website which, when typed into a browser, will bring you to the site that is linked to the domain name. Some common domain names include google.com, twitter.com, and facebook.com. Not all domain names end in .com, as you've probably already noticed. There are several different endings for domain names, known as top-level domains, or TLDs for short, that can be used when registering a domain name. The TLD that you associate with your domain name is usually dependent on the type of content you intend to display on your website. For example, .com stands for commercial and is used by most enterprises that engage in commercial activity, such as the buying and selling of goods or services. .org is usually used by nonprofit organizations that don't use their website for commercial gain. There are several different top-level domains that can be used when selecting a domain name, and the TLD you choose will depend on what you want to do with your website. Registering a domain name for .com, .org, and .net is usually first come, first served. You simply select a domain name registrar, such as GoDaddy.com, and register your domain name. However, the first person to register a domain name is not always the person who will be entitled to use that name. In order for a person to register a domain name, they have to do so in good faith, meaning they can't have ill intent in registering the domain name. Registering a name that you have an interest in, such as a name that reflects your company's name or has some other connection to your company, may also create a presumption of validity. Domain names that meet one of these criteria are usually free and clear of any future disputes. However, there are times when a person may intentionally or inadvertently violate the terms of the registrar, or here in the United States, a federally protected right such as trademark when registering a domain name. Domain names that violate either are subject to dispute resolution, either through arbitration or lawsuit. We'll talk more about resolving domain name issues in the next class. If you've already looked for a registrar to register your domain name, you've probably noticed that there are a lot of choices out there. With all the different choices available to potential registrants, it is important to have someone oversee the process to help maintain a uniform global internet. This is where the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, also known as ICANN, comes into play. Put simply, ICANN is responsible for coordinating all the Internet addresses in the world. They do this by accrediting the domain name registrars that allow individuals to register their domain names. ICANN essentially sets the ground rules for these registrars by requiring them to be bound by a Registrar Accreditation Agreement, or RAA. This agreement helps create a uniform system for registrars to follow when registering domain names. As part of their responsibilities under the RAA, registrars are required to gather information from the domain name registrant. This information will be stored in a database which is used to identify the holders of all domain names in case a dispute were to arise in regards to the name. You can check this database to determine the owner of a specific domain name by using a WHOIS search engine. The registrars are required to provide WHOIS search capabilities as part of their obligations under the RAA. You can find a WHOIS search engine by doing a Google search for WHOIS. Although the entry of a registrant's information may seem rather mundane, it can lead to potential issues in the future. There are fields in the database that represent the owner of a given domain name. Typically, if you purchase a domain name, your contact information is the information inserted into the registrant and administrative fields. However, this is not always the case. There are several instances where registering your domain name may not effectively convey to the world that you are in fact the owner of the domain name. One such instance involves the service offered by most registrars at a premium that allows you to keep your personal information out of the database. These so-called privacy solutions seem like an attractive alternative to posting your personal information on a public database. However, allowing the registrar or any other party for that matter to place their information in the database may help to defeat your ownership rights in the domain name. Generally, in these situations, the registrar substitutes their own information for that of the registrant. The information in the database creates a presumption of ownership that allows the listed party to sell the domain and do with it what they please. While this may appear harmless, it can lead to future complications if an individual desired to transfer their domain name to another registrar. A registrar that has inserted their own information may be able to hold your domain name hostage if they are the listed registrant, effectively preventing you from taking your domain name anywhere else. If you are creating a website for a business, a better solution may be to register the domain name in the business's name if you wish to avoid unwanted personal solicitation. Another instance to be aware of in relation to your domain name registration is when a host bundles domain name services with their hosting package. Some hosts will automatically substitute their own information for yours without even giving you the opportunity to provide your contact info. This creates the same potential for an ownership conflict as the privacy services that a registrar offers. You can only register a domain name for a limited period of time, so there will come a point when you will have to re-register your domain name if you wish to keep it. Re-registering a domain name can lead to issues as well if you aren't careful. Certain individuals will take advantage of the fact that you have to re-register by waiting for a domain name registration to expire so they can quickly register the name and use it to impersonate your website. The expiration of a registered domain name is posted as part of the information available through a WHOIS search, making it easy for unsavory individuals to know when your lease of the domain name is up. Although you may be able to get your domain name back by taking legal action, the damage may already be done by the time you actually recover the name. There are also individuals out there that will impersonate your domain name registrar. They will do this in an attempt to gain your login information so they can turn around and change your registration information through your registrar. This type of activity is known as domain hijacking, and it can be extremely detrimental to your site. A hijacker could secretly change your registrant information, create a spoof version of your site, and direct users to the fake site. The hijackers could then gain login credentials to your actual site and use it to mine any valuable data present on your site. Keeping an eye on your registration info using a WHOIS search engine and staying vigilant in regards to who you give access to your site may help to prevent abuses by persons with bad intentions. Registering a domain name can be an easy task, but it can be ripe with hidden surprises for the unsuspecting website owner. You should take the time to familiarize yourself with your registrar and their policies before choosing to register a domain name. Reading the fine print and making sure you understand the ramifications of your choices will help to prevent undue hardship in the future. Nevertheless, if you find yourself in a position where someone else has claimed ownership to your domain name or is using a name that you think is infringing on a particular legal right that you possess, there are remedies for you to follow to address the wrongdoing. Thanks for watching. Be sure to join me for our next class where we've continued the discussion on domain names and address the various forms of dispute resolution and domain name ownership.